Have you ever wondered what it means to be born different, not just talented, but touched by something that feels otherworldly? On the night of July 10, 1856, in a small village called Smiljan in what is now Croatia, a child came into the world during a violent lightning storm. As thunder cracked and lightning split the sky, the midwife whispered that it was a bad omen. But Tesla's mother replied, "No, this child will be a child of light." That child was Nikola Tesla, and from the moment he was born, he carried with him the aura of mystery. Nikola's father, Milutin Tesla, was a Serbian Orthodox priest. But don't let the word priest fool you. Milutin was also a gifted writer and poet, a man with a brilliant mind. His mother, Juka, was even more remarkable. She never received formal education, yet she was an inventor in her own right, creating household tools and mechanical devices with her own hands. Tesla later said, "I inherit my father's intellect, but my mother's inventive genius." Perhaps this combination, the discipline of his father and the creativity of his mother, created the mind that would one day try to light the entire planet. From an early age, Nikola was different. His memory was photographic. He could recite books and entire poems after a single reading. By the time he was a teenager, he could speak multiple languages: Serbo-Croatian, German, Italian, French, even bits of Latin. But what truly separated him wasn't just memory, it was imagination. Tesla described visions, flashes of light, and strange hallucinations where he saw inventions as if they were real, floating before his eyes. Where other children played with toys, Nikola was building complex mental machines in his mind. He later said, "I do not build inventions. I see them fully formed. I simply copy them down." Imagine that: no sketches, no prototypes. A machine, complete and perfect, inside his brain. At the age of 6, Nikola built his first small water wheel, powered by a stream behind his home. By 12, he was fascinated with the idea of harnessing natural forces. He caught beetles and used them to run makeshift engines, shocking his classmates with strange experiments. But tragedy shaped him early. At the age of 12, Tesla's older brother, Dane, the family's brightest hope, died in a riding accident. The family was devastated. Nikola was suddenly thrust into the role of the one who must achieve. Perhaps it was this loss that pushed him into an obsession with achievement. Tesla attended the Higher Real Gymnasium in Karlovac, where he was introduced to mathematics and physics. His teachers thought he was cheating because he could solve complex calculus problems in his head without writing anything down. Then came the moment that would change his life forever. One day in class, Tesla's professor demonstrated a machine powered by direct current electricity. Direct current, or DC, was weak, inefficient, and limited to short distances. Tesla raised his hand and asked, "What if we could make electricity alternate back and forth instead of flowing in one direction? Would it not travel farther and be more powerful?" The professor laughed. He told Nikola it was impossible, that alternating current could never work. But Nikola Tesla was not the kind of person to accept impossible. That word became his greatest enemy and his greatest challenge. In his late teens, Tesla fell gravely ill with cholera. He was bedridden for nearly a year, hovering between life and death. At one point, the doctors told his father to prepare for the worst. But Milutin Tesla, desperate, promised his son, "If you survive, I will let you study engineering instead of becoming a priest." Nikola clung to that promise. Against all odds, he recovered, and true to his father's word, he began preparing for a life not in the church but in science. Tesla enrolled at the Austrian Polytechnic School in Graz. Here he truly came alive. He was obsessed with electricity, with mechanics, with every new idea that crossed his mind. His professors often said they had never seen a student like him. He could memorize entire textbooks, lecture back to his teachers, and argue over theories that were decades ahead of their time. But Tesla wasn't just a student, he was a visionary. During these years, he first conceived of the rotating magnetic field, the principle that would later become the foundation of alternating current motors. He even sketched the early design of what would become his famous induction motor. Yet, despite his brilliance, Tesla struggled with discipline. He gambled, lost scholarships, and eventually dropped out of the university. By 1878, he disappeared from his family, wandering 2 different cities, taking odd jobs, and often living in poverty. Even in these difficult years, Tesla's imagination never left him. He experienced something unusual, powerful visualizations. He could enter states of deep focus where he claimed to see flashes of light and entire machines operating inside his mind. Sometimes these visions were so vivid that he couldn't tell whether they were real or not. Was it genius? Or a kind of madness? Psychologists today might call it synesthesia or even obsessive-compulsive tendencies. But to Tesla, it was his greatest gift. Tesla spent the next years moving from one engineering job to another, working in telegraph companies and electrical firms across Europe. His reputation grew. People saw him as eccentric but brilliant. By the late 1870s, he found himself in Budapest, where one day while walking in a park, the vision of the alternating current motor came to him in a flash. Using a stick, he drew diagrams in the dirt, describing to his friend how a motor could run using a rotating magnetic field. This was the birth of the idea that would later light up the entire planet. By 1879, Tesla was a man torn between genius and instability. He had no money, no fame, no empire, but inside his mind he carried a vision that could transform the world. The boy born during a storm, the child of light, was about to step onto the stage of history, and soon the world would know his name. But first he had to leave Europe and travel to America. When Nikola Tesla stepped off the ship in New York City in 1884, he was 28 years old, nearly penniless, and carrying little more than a dream. Legend says he arrived with just 4 cents in his pocket, a few poems, and a letter of recommendation from Charles Batchelor, one of Thomas Edison's closest associates. The letter was short but powerful. It read, "My dear Edison, I know 2 great men, and you are one of them. The other is this young man." Tesla clutched that letter like a golden ticket, because at that time Thomas Edison was already one of the most famous inventors in America, celebrated as the Wizard of Menlo Park, to work for. Edison was to step into the heart of the modern industrial revolution. But Tesla had no idea that his path and Edison's would soon collide. In a battle that would change history, Tesla walked into Edison's office and handed over the letter. Edison, a practical, business-minded man, glanced at it and laughed. "So you're the other great man?" He joked. Tesla simply nodded, calm and serious. Edison quickly realized Tesla's talent. Within days, Tesla was working for him, repairing dynamos and improving machines. It was safe, it was functional, but it was limited. Tesla, on the other hand, had already envisioned alternating current, a system where electricity switched direction rapidly, allowing it to travel across miles of wire with minimal loss of power. Tesla knew AC could power entire cities. But Edison wasn't interested. He was invested in DC financially and emotionally. One story goes like this. Edison promised Tesla $5,000 a fortune at the time if he could improve Edison's inefficient DC generators. Tesla worked tirelessly, redesigning and upgrading dozens of machines, increasing efficiency far beyond Edison's expectations. When he returned for his reward, Edison laughed. "Tesla, you don't understand our American humor," he reportedly said. Instead of money, he offered a small raise in Tesla's weekly pay. Tesla felt betrayed. He quit Edison's company, walking away from financial security. Alone in America, a foreigner with little money, Tesla turned to manual labor, even digging ditches to survive. Imagine that, the man who would light the world digging trenches just to eat. Tesla's fortunes changed when he met George Westinghouse, an industrialist who recognized the genius of Tesla's alternating current system. Westinghouse believed AC could revolutionize the electrical industry, and he bought Tesla's patents for a large sum and royalties. With Westinghouse's support, Tesla's dream began to grow, but standing in their way was Edison, who launched a full-scale war against AC. This wasn't just a scientific debate, it was a brutal public relations war. Edison claimed AC was dangerous, even deadly. He organized public demonstrations where animals, dogs, horses, even an elephant were electrocuted with alternating current to show its dangers. He even supported the invention of the electric chair powered by AC, just to paint Tesla's system as lethal. But Tesla and Westinghouse pushed forward. They knew AC's efficiency and power were undeniable. The true turning point came in 1893 at the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, the World's Fair of 1893. Chicago was hosting the grandest fair the world had ever seen, the Columbian Exposition. Over 27 million visitors were expected. The fair committee needed a company to power the entire event with electric light. Edison's company submitted a bid using DC power. Westinghouse, with Tesla's AC, bid lower and promised greater reliability. The committee chose Westinghouse. When the fair opened, visitors were stunned. For the first time in history, an entire cityscape was bathed in electric light. Over 100,000 incandescent bulbs glowed brilliantly, powered by Tesla's alternating current system. People gasped, whispered, and applauded. Electricity wasn't just a novelty anymore, it was the future. Tesla himself gave demonstrations at the fair, showing how a C could safely power lights and motors. In one legendary display, he allowed electricity to flow through his own body, lighting lamps with his bare hands as the audience watched in awe. In that moment, Tesla became a celebrity, and a C had won the war. The victory at the World's Fair was just the beginning. The next great challenge was Niagara Falls, one of the most powerful natural wonders on Earth. For centuries, people dreamed of harnessing its energy. Now, Tesla and Westinghouse would make it real. They built massive AC generators at Niagara, capturing the roar of the falls and turning it into electricity. In 1896, the first power from Niagara traveled 26 miles to Buffalo, New York. It was a triumph. Newspapers declared it a miracle, and Tesla, the boy who once built a water wheel as a child, had now tamed one of the greatest water wheels in the world. By the early 1890s, Tesla was at the peak of his fame. He was tall, slender, charismatic, with piercing blue eyes and a mysterious accent. Reporters loved him. High society invited him to parties. Writers compared him to a wizard, a magician of science. But Tesla wasn't just a scientist, he was a performer. In lectures, he would dim the lights, call for silence, and then unleash displays of electricity that left audiences breathless. He lit lamps wirelessly, created artificial lightning with coils taller than a man, and made electricity dance across the room. To the world, Edison was the businessman inventor, but Tesla was the showman, the dreamer, the prophet of electricity. But even as his fame grew, Tesla's eccentricities became more apparent. He worked endlessly, sleeping only a few hours a night. He had strange habits, obsessive cleanliness, an obsession with the number 3, and rituals that baffled his friends. He was brilliant, but he was also lonely. He never married. He once said, "I do not think." You can name many great inventions that have been made by married men. Tesla belonged not to a family, not to a nation, but to his work. By 1893, Nikola Tesla had conquered the scientific world. He had defeated Edison, lit up the World's Fair, and harnessed Niagara Falls. He had become a legend in his own lifetime. But what happens when a man of vision wants not just 2 power cities, but the entire planet? Tesla's next dream was wireless energy, electricity transmitted through the very air, free for all humanity. And it was this dream that would lift him to even greater heights, and eventually bring him crashing down. By the mid-1890s, Nikola Tesla had become more than just an inventor. He was a prophet of a new age. He had defeated Edison in the War of Currents, lit the World's Fair, and brought Niagara Falls to heel. To the public, he seemed unstoppable, but Tesla wasn't satisfied. His mind was already reaching far beyond what anyone else could see. Electricity to him wasn't just a commodity, it was life itself, the heartbeat of the universe. He once said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." Tesla believed the Earth itself was a giant conductor, a vast electrical body. If tapped correctly, it could provide unlimited power, free, wireless, and available to everyone everywhere. No wires, no coal, no oil, just pure energy drawn from the natural world. It was a dream of freedom, but it was also a dream that would put Tesla on a collision course with the most powerful men of his time. Tesla's obsession with wireless power began with his famous invention, the Tesla Coil, a strange, almost mystical device. The coil could shoot bolts of artificial lightning into the air, illuminating lamps without wires, making sparks dance around a room, even sending power through the human body unharmed. To audiences, it was pure magic. To Tesla, it was the key to global energy. He believed that if scaled up, these coils could transmit electricity across entire continents, even across oceans. Imagine a world where no one pays for power, where deserts bloom, cities shine, and poverty vanishes, all powered by free energy. But such a vision threatened industries built on selling energy, oil, coal, gas, copper wire, billion-dollar empires. Tesla wasn't just inventing, he was disrupting the foundations of wealth itself. In 1899, Tesla moved to Colorado Springs, where he built a massive experimental station on the open plains. Here, he would test his most radical ideas about wireless power. The building itself looked like something out of science fiction, a barn-like structure topped with a giant dome and an enormous 200-foot mast. Inside, Tesla installed the largest Tesla coil ever built. When he fired it up, the sky itself seemed to ignite. Witnesses claimed they could see lightning bolts shooting from the tower, some over 30 feet long. The crackling thunder was heard miles away. One night, Tesla generated so much energy that he accidentally blackened out the entire town of Colorado Springs. Power lines burned out, lights exploded, and telegraph machines caught fire. The townspeople were both terrified and fascinated. Tesla, meanwhile, was ecstatic. He claimed he had successfully transmitted electricity through the Earth itself. He believed he had proven that global wireless energy was possible. Armed with confidence, Tesla returned to New York with an even bolder plan. In 1901, he began construction of his masterpiece, Wardenclyffe Tower. It was to be a 187-foot steel structure on Long Island, capped with a massive copper dome. From here, Tesla claimed he could send electricity wirelessly across the Atlantic. Not just messages, power itself. But Tesla's ambitions went even further. Wardenclyffe, he said, would also transmit wireless communication, voice, music, even images. Stop and think about that. In 1901, decades before the internet, before cell phones, Tesla was already envisioning a global wireless communication network. He dreamed of a world where people could carry small devices in their pockets, instantly connected across oceans. Does that sound familiar? Tesla was imagining the smartphone over a century before it was invented. To build Wardenclyffe, Tesla needed money, and so he turned to one of the most powerful financiers of the age, J.P. Morgan. Morgan agreed to invest 150,000, a huge sum at the time, in exchange for control of Tesla's patents. But Morgan thought Wardenclyffe would be used for wireless communication, a way to make profit from transatlantic telegraphy. When he discovered Tesla's true plan, free, unlimited wireless energy for the whole world, Morgan recoiled. If energy were free, how could he or anyone else make money? The oil tycoons, the coal barons, the copper kings, all would be ruined by Tesla's vision. Morgan withdrew his support. Worse, he spread word through Wall Street. Don't give this man a penny. Overnight, Tesla's funding dried up. Construction at Wardenclyffe slowed, then stopped. The great tower stood unfinished, a monument to a dream too dangerous for the world of profit. Even as his financial world collapsed, Tesla's public image remained dazzling. He gave lectures that mesmerized crowds. He dined with Mark Twain, entertained royalty, and fascinated the press with tales of his inventions. But behind the curtain, Tesla was beginning to unravel. He was plagued by insomnia, visions, and obsessive routines. He hated jewelry, refused to shake hands, and demanded that everything be divisible by 3. Some said his eccentricities were madness. Others believed they were the price of his genius, a mind tuned to frequencies no one else could hear. By the early 1900s, Tesla's reputation shifted from celebrated scientist to mysterious wizard. He spoke of machines that could transmit energy through the air, of weapons that could end all war, of contact with beings from other planets. Newspapers ran wild with his words. Some claimed Tesla had built a death ray capable of shooting down entire armies with invisible beams of energy. Tesla himself fueled the rumors, hinting that his inventions could both save humanity and destroy it. The world didn't know whether to see him as a savior or a madman. By 1905, Wardenclyffe Tower was silent. The workers had left, the copper dome unfinished. Tesla owed thousands in unpaid bills. Finally, in 1917, with America at war and fearing it might be used as a German spy transmitter, the government ordered the tower demolished. Tesla wasn't even there to see it fall. He was already drifting, moving from hotel to hotel, carrying little more than his notebooks and dreams. The world had turned its back on him, but Tesla never stopped believing. He once said, "The present is theirs. The future, for which I have really worked, is mine." By 1910, Nikola Tesla was no longer the darling of high society. His tower lay in ruins, his funding gone, his reputation shifting from genius to eccentric. But Tesla wasn't finished. In the next stage of his life, he would dive deeper into strange inventions, controversial claims, and a lonely descent into obscurity, all while planting seeds of technology that would shape the 21st century. His story was far from over. By 1910, Nikola Tesla's star had begun to fade. The newspapers that once hailed him as the wizard of electricity now mocked him as an eccentric. The financiers who once begged for his ideas now dismissed him as a dreamer. Wardenclyffe Tower Tesla's monument to free energy lay unfinished, a skeleton of steel on Long Island. To the public, it was proof of failure. To Tesla, it was proof of betrayal. But Tesla didn't stop. His mind, restless and relentless, kept moving, chasing visions no one else could see. He had given the world alternating current, wireless communication, fluorescent lighting, remote control. But what he wanted now was something greater, something that would make war impossible and humanity free. In the 1910s and 1922, Tesla began to speak openly of inventions so extraordinary they sounded like science fiction. He claimed to have designed a particle beam weapon, a death ray, as newspapers called it, that could shoot down entire armies or aircraft from hundreds of miles away. Tesla, however, didn't describe it as a weapon of conquest, but as a shield for peace. He told reporters, "My invention will make war impossible because each nation will be able to destroy anything approaching its borders. Armies will cease to exist." Was this real? Or just the fevered dream of a forgotten genius? We may never know. After his death, the FBI seized his papers, and rumors swirled that some of his designs were locked away in secret government archives. But the idea of a death ray inspired decades of military research, from directed energy weapons to the Star Wars defense program of the 1980s. Tesla's ghost was in every blueprint. Tesla's mind was unlike any other. He claimed to see inventions in his imagination before building them, down to the smallest detail he needed. No sketches, no prototypes. His brain was his laboratory. But such brilliance came with a cost. Tesla's behavior grew more unusual. He refused to shake hands, believing it spread disease. He demanded exactly 18 napkins at every meal. He only lived in hotel rooms divisible by the number 3. He admitted to sleeping only 2 hours a night, working through visions and equations until dawn. Too many, these were signs of madness. But to Tesla, they were the rituals that kept his mind aligned with the universe. He wasn't just inventing, he was channeling something larger. Tesla never married. He claimed he was too devoted to his work, saying that intimacy might distract him from his inventions. Yet he wasn't without affection. In his later years, he became famously attached to pigeons in New York's Bryant Park. He fed them daily, even taking injured ones back to his hotel room to nurse them to health. Of one particular white pigeon, Tesla said, "I loved that pigeon as a man loves a woman. As long as I had her, there was purpose to my life." To the world, this sounded tragic, even bizarre, but to Tesla, it was the purest relationship he had. Left companionship with a creature of flight, freedom, and light. Despite his genius, Tesla was a terrible businessman. He often gave away patents, refused royalties, or was cheated out of credit for his ideas. By the 1920s, while Thomas Edison died wealthy and celebrated, Tesla was living in poverty, moving from one unpaid hotel bill to another. He survived on scraps of money from old friends and small government stipends. The man who dreamed of powering the earth was now feeding pigeons in the park, his shoes worn through, his pockets nearly empty. Yet even as he faded from the public eye, some still recognized Tesla's brilliance. In 1931, on his 75th birthday, Time magazine put him on the cover, hailing him as one of the greatest minds of his age. Messages of congratulations poured in from scientists, leaders, even Albert Einstein. But it was a brief flicker of light. Tesla was already slipping into obscurity again, overshadowed by new inventors and the rising storm of World War. In the 1930s, Tesla lived in the New Yorker hotel, room 3327, alone. He continued to announce wild ideas, a machine to photograph thoughts, a way to transmit unlimited energy, contact with extraterrestrial beings. The world listened with fascination, but also skepticism. Was he still a genius ahead of his time, or a relic lost in his own dreams? In truth, it didn't matter. Tesla never stopped dreaming. Even as his body weakened, his mind soared. On January 7, 1943, Nikola Tesla died alone in his hotel room at the age of 86. The maid who found him described him as peaceful, as if he had simply drifted into another realm. But his death sparked controversy. Within hours, the FBI ordered his papers seized, trunks of documents, notebooks, diagrams all taken, locked away. Officially, they claimed it was to protect national security. Unofficially, many believed Tesla's greatest secrets, his death ray, his wireless energy, were buried in classified vaults too. Dangerous to release. Even in death, Tesla remained a mystery. For decades after his death, Tesla was largely forgotten. Edison's name lived on in schools, companies, awards. Tesla's name lived on only in whispers. But slowly, the world remembered. Historians re-examined his work. Engineers rediscovered his patents. His visions of wireless power, renewable energy, and global communication began to look less like madness and more like prophecy. Today, Tesla is celebrated as one of the greatest minds in history. His name powers electric cars, his face appears on statues, his ideas inspire scientists and dreamers alike. But perhaps Tesla's greatest legacy is not a single invention, but a belief that the world could be better, that energy could be free, that humanity could rise above greed and war, connected by light, he once said. Let the future tell the truth and evaluate each one according to his work and accomplishments. The present is theirs. The future, for which I have really worked, is mine, and indeed the future belongs to him. Nikola Tesla was not just an inventor. He was a visionary who lived in the future, trapped in a world that wasn't ready. He died poor, mocked, and alone, but his ideas refused to die with him. Every time a wireless signal crosses the earth, every time renewable energy lights a home, every time a dreamer imagines a world beyond profit and power, Tesla lives again. And maybe, just maybe, one day humanity will finally catch up to the man who saw the future.